Welcome to another edition of Close Mode, the Enterprise Sales Show. I'm Brian Dietmeyer, CEO of Close Strong, and today I am very lucky to be here with Meelad Nikpourian, who is Vice President of Commercial Operations and Strategy at Accruent Fortive. And his company builds essential technology in fields like workspace safety, engineering, healthcare, that sort of thing. So pretty cool company. Meelad, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And how did I do with your last name? Did I butcher it?
You nailed it. The
Yeah.
IIN is a dead giveaway. Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you.
And today, Meelad is actually, we're not even going to talk. You're just going to play music on your keys back there, aren't you? You're going to do maybe a little Bill Withers thing for us or something. I don't know. What would you play, by the way, if you were going to, what's your genre? If you were going to bang something out, what would it be?
It's sort of all over the board. If I'm at a party, it's got to be, the easy one's always Journey. Gets the people going.
Don't stop believing.
Yeah, exactly. Just every time it's just a go-to. But
Good.
At home, it's mostly like classical.
Nice.
Or I'll just go jam out, just to get some, creative energy going.
One day, not on the podcast, we should talk about Mozart. I have a liberal arts undergrad and took an entire course on Mozart and read all of his letters between he and his sister. He was a pretty cool guy. But anyway, yes, what we are talking about today is 360 pipeline view. And last week we were just talking about sales and pipeline management, and you had some really cool ideas. And you mentioned a 360 view of the pipeline at a high level. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so when digging into optimization of your funnel, I think that's something on the top of every CRO's mind, or CSO as well. Typically we start at sales, qualified lead, right? And how can we improve win rates, conversion rates throughout our sales funnel? But what we found is really interesting at Accruent is looking at what we call a funnel 360. So going a step farther back, all the way back to lead land, before an opportunity is ever created or a dollar amount's put to it. Getting really, really granular on who your ICPs are, the target verticals you want to get after, and diving into conversion rates down to every single marketing tactic that's being used to say, hey, what's actually giving us the best ROI or bang for our buck? So one thing that we kicked off at Accruent late last year was what we call a VSM, a visual flow map, if you will, on our funnel with conversion rates and data, all the way from lead, all the way to close one, and unfortunately close banded and lost sometimes as well, to figure out where were the opportunities to improve.
Yeah. And I recall from our last conversation, and I heard it a little bit here, a lot of emphasis on the front end with that 360 view, which as I interpreted our conversation, it was like that's driving so much more conversion on the back end. Do you want to elaborate a little bit on your kind of front end focus?
It's the beauty of a funnel, right? Even in the shape of it. What you put in at the top, particularly with those high end counts and the dollars you're spending up top, has a massive impact on the conversion rate downstream. What we found in particular is a vertical approach really helps. Naturally, our product lines, Accruent was the coming of multiple different businesses and product lines. Those products naturally win in certain markets. I'll give an example. Our EMS product is for room scheduling and management of workspaces. It was made for higher ed. We naturally have a high, what I consider sales velocity within higher ed. Those dollars convert at 3x versus some other industries. If you were to get out of the core ICP, also works well in legal and services as well. And we have different products across our industrial market, like a maintenance connection or a Meridian, where process manufacturing, it really, really does. And so being very, very focused on the right verticals can drive conversion rates throughout the funnel.
Yeah, kind of.
If you're waiting to 3, yeah.
But it's kind of root cause stuff, right? Let's go all the way back to the beginning. It makes
all the way back.
It makes total sense. Another thing you said, which I really liked, because I think that there's so much a lot of us do, like this is the way it's always been done, and you talked about like KPIs and funnel efficiency that there's a lot of numbers and metrics we look at, but do they tell the real story? And I think there's something there. Can you chat a little bit more about that?
Yeah, you can very easily. So I run like a data science team as well. We do a lot of work in Power BI, taking the Salesforce data, putting it into Snowflake, manipulating that data. You can easily get lost in what I consider KPI overload. You know, tons of dashboards, right? At Fortive, Fortive's like the larger company we all work for, a current and operating company, came from Danaher. So the big belief here is like our FBS, Fortive Business System, used to be DBS, Danaher
Yeah.
Business System. It's pretty world renowned in
Yes.
what it can do. And there's a specific tool called daily visual management. And daily visual management is all around the critical KPIs. Within 5 seconds, and this can be used both on a factory floor and very much in a SaaS company. Are you winning or losing? But choosing those metrics, I think, is very, very important. You want a mix of leading and lagging, right? Top of funnel, end of funnel, but getting down to the critical few and then driving both engagement and rigor around affecting those numbers through ops reviews is how we actually get like the KPIs actually delivering value to our sales teams. So that's how we get down to like condensing, right,
Yeah.
into what we think are the most important metrics.
Yeah, another area we wandered into was data cleansing, and you talked about how you're leveraging AI to help with that. And what was intriguing to me is like I think of that as some pretty big picture stuff, but my notes show that like you ended up in that talking that can be leveraged in talk tracks and that kind of thing. And that sort of, I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that because I felt like it was super high level, and then you talked about this really tactical use case for some stuff that comes out of that. Can you delve into that a little bit?
Yeah, we're being strategic. I want to say where we are using AI, but it's being put to work across our funnel. It's a big initiative across all of Fortive. I think generally Accruent is leading. We're like one of the only pure software companies, one of a handful, and so like naturally we have a propensity to leverage the tool sets. So on the data cleansing side, one thing is like you go talk to any CRO or anyone in data
Yeah.
that interfaces with the CRM. Chances are your CRM is not clean. I hear that across the board. We're not unique
Yeah.
in that challenge. What I think AI is very, very good at is helping. So we're doing this vertical approach, right, at the company right now. And we know that our Salesforce data, as an example, isn't the best. We were able to use AI and NICS codes to map out actually where our accounts are, where our prospect accounts are as well, and where we should go hunting based upon historical data where we had win rates. And this was all using ChatGPT, in addition to some new companies that have come around propensity modeling that we're actually toying around with right now. The data cleansing part I think is really important because it's like where actually are you winning? And really having a good insight into that. And AI is very good at reading through the CRM and actually
Yeah.
selecting the correct verticals. I mean, it's like a 70-80% hit, right? Nothing's perfect.
Well, yeah.
It was better than what we had in the CRM, right?
And probably
Which
better and
I
faster. I would assume better and faster.
scale.
Yeah.
You bring up a
Yep.
really, really good point. Being able to do it at scale, again, we were the summation of multiple businesses, right? So multiple CRMs put together. So you can imagine, over time that can lead to data hygiene issues. So yes, scale and then effectiveness, if done properly, can really help to then retarget ultimately. Like, what do you do with that data? Now that you have clean data, it's only as good as it's put to use. And so we have a tool called policy deployment in Fortive, which is really like strategic thinking about how we want to push our business. And so we saw the data, we cleaned it, we said, okay, these are where we're actually winning. We have a significant, like 3-4x higher sales velocity in these verticals. Let's put some more muscle to them and see how much pipe we can drive in bookings and ARR growth we can
And
drive in them.
how much insight do you get beyond? So yeah, here's where we're winning. What depth can you get to in terms of why? Because you did talk about like this ending up like leading talk tracks. Like, can you get to that level of why, and to what level of why can you get to?
Yeah, it depends on the vertical. I'll give an example of Pharmaceutical. So we have a base in pharmaceutical. And the reason why is because compliance. Compliance is a necessary element and it's highly regulated. In the event, they have a batch that goes bad, it can cost them millions of dollars per hour, in downtime because it's very much a process facility, but it's just producing drugs for humans. So where we have a unique right to win is we have all the necessary requirements for the companies to be able to be compliant. But we also have unique workflows where we have multiple products now. So part of the strategy is to bring in multiple products where we can cross sell, which is unique to Accruent because we have both facilities management, engineering documentation management, IoT and condition-based monitoring. And if you really be able to create a suite, where you're seeing a lot is, CISOs and, CTOs, they want to, rather than cherry picking, they want to have a one-stop shop. And if you're able to put a strategy together and the product strategy as well, to build that out, that capability, we naturally have a right to win. Another great example is healthcare. Accruent is actually dominant. It's one of the few spaces we play in where we're actually dominant in hospitals in North America. Well, why is that? These product lines were specifically created in regional locations when the companies were founded right next to the majority of the hospital, some of the biggest hospital chains in the US. And so they had unique insight and UI, UX and workflows for biomedical teams, as an example, that are highly differentiated. And the customers love it. And we have a whole refresh going on that product line, which is super exciting because of the fact that we know we have a very high sales velocity in the healthcare sector.
It's interesting. So yeah, I've kind of two follow-up questions to that. One is as it relates to product, there's some transition where you're learning and you have to bring that to product. What is that like? Is that a formal process? Are they part of this from the beginning, or how are they informed and then use that to look at their product path?
That's a great question. So strategy is formed between largely it came from product.
Okay.
So the strategy of, hey, where do we have a right to win? Now our teams played a big role in getting the data right together, so we can say with conviction, these are the win zones that we think we have a really right to win. Again, using the tools I was talking about earlier. But then part of this is, there's gaps, right? So particularly if you're trying to enter a saturated market, right? Let's say CMMS, the industries we play in, maintenance software, right? For technicians, there's probably an incumbent, right? Depending on which industry, but largely, particularly in regulated markets, there's been a need for this, a regulatory need too. So then it's how do you differentiate yourself? And so that's where product really comes in. It's hey, do we have certain feature sets? So we always try to time where you see pipe build go best is you're in a strategic market that you have a right to win, a unique right to win, right? Sales velocity is higher versus others. And then you also have an NPI, a new product introduction, something new, right? Something new and shiny to put in front of customers or prospects as well that is differentiated. That's enough of a compelling solution to get them to switch.
Got it.
So the other aspect about this is where AI comes in is those triggering events.
Yes.
Of why a customer would be looking, a prospect, I should say, should be looking for a new solution.
And so that, so products the engine for this, I think is what I heard, which is cool. Yeah, I was thinking of you were doing the work and then pushing it. That makes total sense. So even at a level below that tactically, I'm thinking about the sales enablement piece. Where at one point it sounds like this data is having words come out of reps' mouths that make a difference, or emails, or how is that connection made? Is that also a formal process, and are they involved from the beginning?
Yeah, so that's part of our policy deployment initiative. So we have a cross-functional team of marketing, sales enablement as well. We have solution consultants that basically run our demos, and they're highly knowledgeable in the spaces that we play in. And so one thing that we're doing is as we go through these verticals that we think we have a higher chance and right to win based upon data that we've analyzed, we also will build briefs, we call them solution briefs. And this goes very much into a lot of VOC with customers in the space. It's very customer viewpoint, and we'll go through the buying cycle that's unique to each industry. We'll go to the value drivers and the pain points of the customer. It's always taking a customer lens. And then it's really about the value selling elements.
Yes.
So, what are the questions that we actually will ask during that are unique to a vertical that we will ask during as a BDR reaches out, right? During qualification, down to what are the questions we should be asking, prior to demoing, right? And it's really trying to get at, quantifying the pain points that we know that are unique to a market, and bringing them to life, and then how our solution maps, having that. But again, it's a very vertical approach. It's not like spray and pray. And I think that's the sauce, right? And we will build that out per vertical. Now the key thing is like the critical few, going back to like the DVM talk,
Yeah.
daily visual management, and get after every vertical, right? So where do you stack rank each vertical against each other and pick and choose the best ones?
Yeah, it's amazing too, to me anyway, to bring this down to this like tactical level. To I'm thinking about like the high value questions, very prescriptive kind of questions that come out of this sort of data, as opposed to what one might learn in like general discovery skills or something. This is like, to me as a lifelong sales leader, consultant, salesperson, like this is some really kind of high value, dialed in stuff that, yeah, it's just amazing output to me. Yeah.
It's a cycle of like, it's not like you do it once and you say,
Yeah.
hey, we're done. We'll track the pipe build and then the bookings, the demo fit scores in a vertical for a period of time. So it's all about sustainment too.
Yes.
Launching and then saying, hey, we've cleansed our hands with it isn't enough. We're looking at outsized growth within a vertical over a period of almost a year. So that's where the refinement comes in, because you're getting right down with the BDR team, business development reps,
Yep.
and you're refining that talk track. And you may update it, right? You may realize, hey, what we thought we heard in BSC was different than we're actually hearing on the ground floor with our BDR. So it's a continued refinement. But when you start to unlock, the value drivers, you can really start to drive outsized pipe growth.
Yeah, and that really strikes me too, because one of my advisors talks a lot about selling at the speed of change. So that that I remember, and this was a few years ago. I was talking to a VP of sales about annual planning, and she said, the equivalent of annual planning now happens quarterly. And yeah, and I go back to, like, I've been an entrepreneur for a while, but go back to working at a Fortune 50. The place shut down starting in September. Everybody was working on their annual plans and their budget asks, and yeah, I think
Yeah.
about that feverish pace now, and it is. I mean, the rate at which your value is changing, your competitor values are changing, customer needs are shifting because of a new regulatory thing. Like, yeah, it's all so fast that, yeah, I imagine, yeah, this is an ongoing process.
Agility is always tough. It goes back to what we also talked about: speed, something slowing down to speed up.
Yes.
But agility is very important, right? The example I give is we recently acquired a company called Red Eye. They do engineering documentation management out of Australia. Naturally, where they play extremely well in is like mining, utilities. So we're seeing, strong growth in that vertical because there's a new shiny object. It's an
Right.
incredible product, I should say. But naturally, that's where they have the highest sales velocity. And so what's really interesting to see is we're not just seeing Red Eye being created, pipeline being created. We're also seeing our ancillary products in this suite of industrials also being pulled in
Right.
with Red Eye. So like that's where like strategies like rubbers meeting the road, and we're actually starting to see outsized pipe growth in that vertical.
It's really cool. Yeah, and you mentioned the slow down to hurry up idea, and I think I've mentioned to you on a previous call, like that's a mainstay for me about thinking about business, and I think what people miss with that is we're always so fast that they only hear the slow down, and that's only half of it. It's to hurry up, right? If you look at the entire life cycle and play this, whatever this strategy is, out over multiple rounds,
Yeah.
it's to hurry up. And you talked about how that impacts your approach, especially given the way sales runs, and especially you had mentioned even startups do everything so fast. But yeah, I gave you my view on that. What's your view on this slow down to hurry up thing?
I come from an entrepreneurial background too, so I've founded companies and I sold one of them. So I work at a very fast pace,
Yeah,
and so what I think is interesting is particularly when you're dealing with multiple product lines, multiple geographies, the scale of it. I tend to be leading from the front
yeah,
in terms of speed and pace, but also slowing down to when things don't go as you initially planned, right? Taking the time to actually understand exactly why versus jumping to the next thing, I think is super important.
right.
Sometimes those, and again, I go back to like the Fortive Business System. We have a tool called PSP, which all is around problem solving, but it goes into real depth. Like it forces the person who's going through this process to bring out the data, let
Yeah,
the data lead the discussion on where's the areas for improvement. And so, I've had the opportunity, been at Fortive for like 9 years to get like a champ, what they consider like champion status in like
yeah,
a couple of the tool sets. And problem solving is one of them. And I think it's probably the most valuable. That and daily visual management are like the most valuable tool sets out of one of the most valuable, I should say, out of the entire deck because it like you can really drive impact from that.
yeah. I have to. So it just came into my mind. I love. I'm kind of closing us out now, and I'm going to close us out with I love doing these podcasts, and it's one because I get to talk to a lot of smart people. I get to talk to a lot of nice people who really care, who are really checked into what they're doing, and it just you're right there, and I really appreciate it. It's sort of like it's motivational just to hear how much you're checked into this stuff, and you've been super generous with your time and your ideas, and I appreciate that a lot.
100%. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.